Could I ready? I'd like to call the meeting of January 10th to order. Are there any additions to the agenda other than 7.8 that has already been added that I did? Can I have a motion to approve the agenda as submitted?
I'll second.
All those in favor? A motion to approve the minutes of December 13th, regular meeting, and special meetings of December 19th, January 2nd, and January 8th.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to approve the following consent agenda items as recommended by the superintendent? 3.1, treasurer's report. 3.2, financial report. 3.3, consideration of claims. 3.4, transportation report. 3.5, cafeteria report. 3.6, does that have to be separate, Debbie? No. 3.6, mileage reimbursement. 3.7, capital project bond resolution.
Second.
Discussion. So the mileage reimbursement was raised because of the IRS standards were raised. Happens every year. Any on that? Anybody else have anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
We have moved to 5.1, and we have two teacher presentations. So we've got Mrs. Worth and then Brian Rose. Do you need us to move, or are you guys projecting?
No, I'm not.
Okay, and we'll stay where we are.
Which direction would you like for me to face?
So whom would you like to present?
I will present to everyone.
There you go.
Face everyone.
So, I was granted $663.45 to do work for environmental science, and that's a lot of money. So if I gave someone that much money, I would want to know what it was used for. So that's what I'm going to tell you. First, I had to be certified. It's a dual enrollment class through Morrisville. So I had to be certified through Morrisville and did a little bit of work with them. They sent me their environmental science curriculum, and I got the curriculum from Ms. Bossard and then searched out several AP environmental science courses so I could do a comparison and see exactly what the sequence and the pacing were going to be. That took a little bit of while. It takes longer than you think to do some research. So then I started knowing that I wanted to do this, as Ms. Bossard had more of a project-based type of course. I searched out several projects and topics that I thought would be germane to the course. Then you have to do the rubric and find the articles and find the video clips and all that. So that took a bit of time as well. And it's been about 30 years since I taught environmental science, so I thought it would be a good idea to go back, read the textbook, take the notes, make up some online Schoology quizzes and things like that. So that took additional time as well. This year, one of my goals is to get all of my notes, PowerPoints, everything like that in Google, in my Google Drive, so that it can be easily shared with the students. So I did that. For each chapter I made Google documents and Google Slides. I found a few case studies that I wanted to do, and then tried to figure out how I could find labs that would be more hands-on and combine them with some computer simulations so that we would still have the technology aspect. And so far I think it's been successful. thank you for your endorsement and your support. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's good. It's a good place to work.
So with the departure of Dan Raines at the end of last school year, I took on the AP language class in addition to the other classes I was teaching. And so applied for hours to develop curriculum for that, and also applied and was granted the opportunity to attend the AP boot camp that I need to attend in order to be qualified, certified to call the course the AP course. So what I did, starting out with the hours, was to begin to familiarize myself with the AP language exam. It's very different from lit, and I learned that as part of the boot camp attending to the professor, Professor Murph, as she liked us to call her, made sure that people who were also teaching literature knew that language was different and better than literature. Although I like both, but anyway. So I spent time looking over the exam. There was also a pre-reading list that was required by Murph for us to come in having read a number of articles, a number of pieces that she submitted to us, and preparation in that I had to bring lesson plan items as well. And so some of my hours were spent prior to the boot camp compiling these things, getting them together, doing all my reading, make sure I've addressed the questions that she had asked for me. In the middle then, I went to Long Island and spent 4 days at boot camp, from basically 8 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon, in the classroom with Murph, and there were other people, other teachers who were getting their certification as well. There were about 16 of us overall, and found that extremely beneficial. We started out with a general overview of the exam and of the course, and then each day was then divided into very specific elements that we were going to need to be teaching, which was rhetorical analysis, argument, and synthesis. And so she had a binder for us that she handed out, and we went through that. There were a number of books that she has a very good relationship because she's published as well for AP exam, and is one of the coordinators in scoring that's done nationally as well. So she's very kind of highly placed in that. It's nice to be able to go and get that kind of level of instruction. But she has a good in with publishers, so she was able to corral us a number of books that we would be able to use as well, and actually got us a book that hadn't been published yet, and got us an advanced copy of it. It's a AP textbook, and so that was kind of nice too. And so we were going through many activities with that. There was homework each night as well that I had to do and prep for the next class. And at the completion of that, felt I had a good handle on what the course entailed and how to get the students prepared for it, and spent then the remaining part of my hours putting my syllabus together. And I can just pass this down. Now, one of the things I discovered being the teacher who I had taught the OCC English 103, 104 course for 2 years, so introductory college writing and introductory college literature, I discovered in some ways that the AP course was similar to the introductory college writing course. And so there were some things I was able to take in terms of readings and activities from that, from my syllabus that I had to do for OCC, and was able to synthesize it into the AP. And so a lot of the things you're seeing at the beginning about the overview and text, some of those are based on the OCC syllabus. Of course, AP is college level, just like the OCC class is, and so kind of direct correlation. After that, a lot of time was spent finding the way that I wanted to divide the course, and in the end I took Murph's recommendation and who said do rhetorical analysis first, it's the basis for everything, and then after that do argument and then synthesis. And so I organized my course along those lines. Took the school calendar, went through and looked at weeks, and after finding the readings that I wanted to do, kind of inserted them in here into the reading. These were the things we were going to be dealing with students by essentially kind of class week. This does not incorporate the lecture notes that I've been compiling, because this is also kind of a lecture course as well, where we do mini lectures and then we apply the notes. The students apply the notes from those lectures to the text that we're doing. And so really, this is what I spent all my hours doing, looking at how I could do that and put those things and put those readings into the AP syllabus. And of course then, after the exam, looking at doing a little bit of literature, but still kind of using some of the AP language things, because a good number of the students, in fact all the students that I had this year, signed up for AP Lit as well. So it kind of gives them advance into the AP Lit course. It's kind of nice to have both, because they take me the junior year with the AP language, and then me with AP Lit the senior year. And then the research paper goes along with novel examinations at the end, where they're going to be doing an extended, essentially, synthesis thesis paper that will be according to kind of college level expectations. And that's it. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you giving me the time to do that.
Thank you both. That brings us to 5.2, which is community participation. The first of our two sections for this. If you'd like to come up, please come up to the microphone, and remember to stay within our 3-minute time frame. Thank you.
Hi everyone, Travis Ames. Members of the board, I come to you this evening to discuss something that I feel very passionate about. I respect your time restraints for public comment, so I've written down my statement so that I stay within the allotted time. I'm here as a parent of an HCS student, a district taxpayer of many years, and as someone who cares deeply about the teachers and staff that work here. This is a great school with great people, yet the one concern I have with HCS is that it too often fails to put safety in the forefront of its decision-making process. Soon you will be discussing school security, and I thank you for doing so. Madison County is graciously offering to partially fund a school patrol officer for schools in the county, and I'm so thankful to them for that. There was a time not so long ago, I believe, that HCS had something similar to this before state funding sadly disappeared. I know there are factors to be considered first, and I had a nice conversation with the superintendent on this issue, and I appreciate how important he places safety amongst his priorities. The very first paragraph in the HCS mission statement describes providing a safe environment for all students, a safe environment. Additionally, the strategic plan that you adopted states student welfare must be at the center of every decision, the center of every decision. As you move forward, I hope that you not only keep those intents in mind, but hold to them. I also encourage you to do your research. For example, find out the difference between a school resource officer, which is what your agenda item is listed as, and a school patrol officer, which is what the county is currently offering. I do believe there is a distinct difference. It has been explained to me that this could be a delicate endeavor, seeing as how we already have somewhat of a presence in the village police department. I get that assumption, but I think that mindset is grossly underestimating the professionalism of both parties involved. I would love it if the village board would provide HCS with a full-time officer at $19,000, but currently, as far as I know, only Madison County is offering us such an offer. I know there are some that might be opposed to an armed officer in the building. Though I disagree, I respect that some do feel that way. I also know that these are scary times for kids. I worry about my child's safety. I worry about the teachers and staff that you employ. I want them to feel safe in their workplace. When I hear about increased behavioral problems in the primary school and a worry of cultural diversity concerns in the secondary school, I put two and two together and I see red flags. I don't know if you can put a price tag on safety, but I sure hope that $19,000 isn't beyond what you're willing to consider providing it. I compel you to make this a top priority moving forward. It should be the top of the wish list for next year's budget in big, bold print. I wish we were one of the county districts that already expressed interest in this. I hope we'll at least be the next. I encourage you to act swiftly on this and not let this be a repeat of HISP, for example, where a committee is formed where a lot of talking took place over a period of a year, but no conclusion was made, rather a deferment. In closing, would HCS be safer with a patrol officer, or are we so ignorant to believe that nothing bad could ever happen here? I will continue to push for you to provide for not just a security officer, but other means of safety, and I hope others are as passionate and vocal about this as I am and will continue to be. The question becomes, do you, the Board of Education, whom we have entrusted with the safety of our children and of those who provide their education, do you choose to be proactive or reactive? It's really that simple, and I implore you to choose the former. I thank you for allowing me this time, and I look forward to hearing your discussion this matter. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Travis, do we have a copy of that? Do we have it?
Okay.
Okay. This time? If not, we'll move along. We have new business. 6.1, we have some appointments. Can I have a motion to approve the following coordinators effective February 1 through June 30 as recommended by the principals and superintendents?
Second.
Any discussion? Explain.
Oh, boy, you know, I just sat here knowing I have all the paperwork's in my office. Let me explain the best I can from memory. For a period of time prior to my arriving, and I don't know for how long, we had this position called the coordinator, and they would be equated, if you will, to the department chair concept. And that wasn't filled for a while. And I know work was done between the district and HTA to put protocols together, including duties. We have a 15-item duty statement, which I wish I had know about it. We have a system whereby somebody would exhibit, would advertise an exhibit of interest, select, so on. There's a timetable attached to that. I'm missing one other, an application process that someone would complete. So we've been working with HTA as part of the strategic plan to bring back the coordinators and to bring the coordinators and to put the protocols together, so on, which we've done. So at this point, we put out notice to see who was interested. We received applications and they need these recommendations. Starting February 1st, I believe we still have one other that we're looking at, I believe, a secondary ELA,
Social studies, yep, that was going to be my question.
Yeah, we're still looking for
There was a
that. I think we have a pretty good agreement with the association as to how to proceed, and these are our recommendations.
Other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 6.2, can I have a motion to approve the recommendation of committees on special education and preschool special education? Any discussion would happen in an executive session? All those in favor? Aye. Now we've moved on to 6.3, we've got some policies. We've got 1014. I'd like a motion to take this policy from the table. It's the code of conduct. Motion?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
I have a question, and you're gonna.
We're just taking it from the
Oh, you're
table.
taking this off the table?
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Okay, yes, okay, good, yeah, okay.
All those in favor to take it off the table?
All right.
Aye. Now,
I just knew I had a question, I was so busy looking for my question.
can I have a motion to adopt policy 1014, same policy, code of conduct, as revised by the and recommended by the superintendent?
Second.
Discussion.
So I'm sorry, and I know, I really meant to email you about this ahead of time, and I lost it. I just, there's two different definitions of weapon. And that's all I want to clarify. Early,
Two different definitions of weapon in what's in front of you?
yes.
Okay.
On page 4, weapon means a firearm defined in 18 U.S.C. Type 21 for purposes of Gun-Free Schools Act. It also means any other gun, BB gun, pistol, revolver. It goes through a whole list of things,
I see that. There.
including metal knuckle knife, box cutters, cane sword, electronic dart gun,
Okay.
switchblade. It does not actually say pocket knife, does it? Because then on page 30, it specifically says, except a pocket knife with a blade of less than 2.5 inches in length. I just want to make sure we don't have conflicting
No, and
definitions.
I'm going to look to Bill because if it's over 2.5 inches, it's considered a weapon.
Correct.
That has more serious ramifications for a child than if it's under 2.5 inches. That's some kind of statute, federal code or something. What's your question around?
My
So I'm not
question
sure
is just
there is
that,
I'm not sure there is.
I just wanted to make sure we didn't have two conflicting different definitions. That's all I wanted.
So let's go to page 30. We're not going to sound.
Well, we might, actually.
No, I mean, I would take the feedback and figure it out. I'm not sure I can figure it in my head right now.
Page 4 on page 30.
But you're saying the pocket knife's not mentioned in the first one that you read.
No, it does not name a pocket knife as a weapon.
Because the 2.5-inch blade distinguishes between a weapon.
Right.
And
So it's
a
not
non-weapon.
conflicting.
It's
It's
not.
just, it's actually clarifying.
I believe that to be so. Look at our bill because we've been through incidents with this. Yeah. So I don't believe it is conflicting.
They are quoting two different things.
Yes.
And I'm actually otherwise okay with it. I just wanted to make sure that they weren't conflicting.
Um,
And I think they're okay.
I do too. I keep looking at Bill because I know we've dealt with this. One, the penalties are different.
Yeah. Once a pocket knife moves beyond 2.5 inches, it becomes a weapon, according to that version.
We still don't want pocket knives in school.
Yeah, they're in different sections.
Correct.
They're not classified as weapons, but we still don't want them.
Well, yeah, one is just a set of definitions and the other one is actually in
It's defined as a weapon.
what's defined as a weapon for discipline.
There's got to be more to it.
But specifically for disciplines too.
Mhm.
So there's two different codes.
Okay,
Okay?
okay, thank you, that's all. I didn't think it was going to be a problem and I still meant to email you ahead.
No, that's okay.
Sorry.
And those are.
I was glad we were able to.
They aren't our definitions, no, but I just wanted to make sure.
I was glad to answer. I
Now-
do want to point something else out though, because
Okay.
we did get feedback. On page 3, you will see a concept called gender expression. It's in red.
Mhm.
All right? On purpose. On page 4, you'll see a definition of sexual orientation, because that's in red. What was originally presented to the board through subcommittee and then to the board the first time came from one source. Okay? We got feedback that maybe we ought to look at this differently, and we did. And we went to another source, and we followed the other source to come up with those terms. And we were happy to recommend newer terms in the
I agree.
Okay, so that's how we got it. So given that, we are recommending approval. We know there are some cosmetic and some changes in English and punctuation and so on, but and formatting that we need to fix, but I think the content we recommend.
Okay. Yep. Good.
Thank you.
So all those in favor of the revised policy?
Aye.
We've got a first reading, so it's really just discussion on policy 5662, school food service program and meal charter.
What we did with this, the subcommittee, speak for us, or you guys just speak or forever hold your peace. The subcommittee and I worked on this. This is effectively an anti-shaming policy for school lunch programs. Children are not to be shamed. I believe our district has not shamed children.
A long time.
A long time, and I hope it doesn't come up again. I don't
It
think
did
it's
used to
the right
happen.
way.
I mean, not with the intent of shaming them, but the things that are sort of.
So what we did is, so when we got the recommendation to do this policy, the subcommittee and I decided just to kind of put it on hold. We worked with Matt and with the Mrs. Cass at blank, isn't that awful? Andrea, Alexa this, she's not Alexa, that's a machine, right? Alexa lunch, no, all right.
I don't think Alexa does
I don't
that
think it
either.
works that way. You can try it though, Alexa fix the policy language.
Andrea and Matt worked on this, and there were a couple of pieces that didn't belong that came out, and what we decided to do was wait for the commissioner to approve our policy as a plan for school lunch. And we got our school lunch plan approved, and once our school lunch plan got approved, this is our first reading of the policy. It's in accordance with the plan, and it's non-changing. Okay, and we'll come next month with a recommendation.
Thank you. 6.4, we have a donation. Can I have a motion to accept the monetary donation of $470 from the Hamilton Emerald Foundation with sincere appreciation, and to increase the district budget by this amount, as recommended by the business manager and superintendent.
Second.
Discussion? Thank you.
Ready for that?
And I don't recall, what was this donation for?
Our conference.
I do remember that, now you say it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. A motion to approve the foreign language club trip to Costa Rica during the spring of 2020 break, contingent upon meeting all planning requirements of the administration. Please note that the Board of Education reserves the right to cancel the trip if circumstances should arise concerning the safety of the students.
I'll move. How many of us are they taking?
Did you not read that?
I did. We'll also have a child on the trip who will frown greatly if I show up on the list of attendees.
You're not phenomenal.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are to 6.5. I'll turn it over to Pete for the
Okay.
discussion of the school resource officer.
I have put some information in writing, so if I may. I'm going to split these in half. And if the board would take one, and then we'll kind of get them into the audience too. If you're sitting next to somebody, if you can share,
You wanna share?
or if you don't want to look and just listen, please don't take one. We're going to be doing a number of this tonight. I have 3 or 4 items that I do want to do this way. I want to pass out, so, if you somehow share them. I'll wait till they get out. Okay? This I guess is what I know. I probably could have used either instead of reading. Madison County is allocating $18,000 for safety officer, resource officer, control officer, I'm not sure what you call them. The district must allocate $19,000 year one for such a position. I have talked with Sheriff Hood, and they will provide. If we so go in this direction, we're on the list. So we have not lost the opportunity. So we can participate at any time. And we are currently on the list should we choose to move forward. I also know that the county sheriff's office is going to conduct interviews and will do the select assignment and supervising of the staff, and retired police officers will form the pool. State police, sheriffs, local police. That's what I know at this point. What I don't know is will the $18,000 from Madison County continue? And what I don't know is will our share, if the $18,000 does continue and stays the same, will our share increase? Because I'm aware of lobbying going on in New York State. You have the $30,000 limit for retirees to work until they're 65. They're trying to get that raised. And the sheriff said they would also, if if someone were looking for an increase in salary, they would also do the 211 waivers. Problem is, he didn't say that the $18,000 county share would increase. So it might be an impact on us as we went forward. Want you to know that it might happen, but I don't know for sure. I don't know if HCS would be involved in interviews or the selection process, and I've tried my darndest. I don't know what the thinking of our village police department is. I'm still trying to connect with the chief. That's enough said. I have a couple other thoughts, but it's a discussion. I wanted to at least put a framework of what I did and didn't know in front of you. I'll leave it at that for now. Let you keep looking at me and I'll keep talking.
So, I actually, my initial instinct was, why would we not? Why could we possibly not? But then I have this tendency to be evidence-based. And so I tried to dig to see what the literature is. Is there literature about the impact? And to Travis's point, what I was reading about was school resource officers. I actually have a newspaper article about Madison County, and it refers to them as school patrol officers. So I think the first question is,
What's the difference?
what is the expected job duty? And is that job duty assigned by the sheriff, or is that job duty determined by us? And I think that is huge. But I have to admit, after reading, the evidence of benefit that I could find is not substantial. And again, I'm looking at you because I don't know if you have any other knowledge or
I have
or
experience.
resources.
I have
And-
experiences.
And from what I could find, that there aren't a ton of studies and there aren't a ton of good studies, which is, I mean, most of them are sort of meta-analysis type based studies, which are not great studies. But the information that was there was that there is not necessarily a decrease in violent offenses. There is not necessarily the kind of benefit I think we would want. And there is an increase, and it was a term I had never heard, and it was used again the other night at the ESSA meeting, was the school to prison pipeline. That there is actually a concern about an increase in the school to prison pipeline, which is, I think, the opposite of what we would want for our kids. And so my reluctance right now in jumping on board and saying yes is that I want evidence. I want to know that this is going to help our kids and not potentially hurt our kids. And I want to know what the job duties are and who would be assigning them and choosing them. And then, again, also to Travis's point about forming a committee and talking a lot about getting anything done. I mean, what is recommended is that if you are going to do this, and we can put timelines on it, is that you really do a self-assessment of what are the needs, so that you make sure that if you're bringing this person in, you're fulfilling your needs and not just kind of putting a Band-Aid on something or giving a visual appearance of doing something that's not actually effective or beneficial. So that's
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, to Ellen's, sorry. To Ellen's point, a question I had was, where is this coming from? Is this just because there's money? Is there something internal in the school that we think there is? What is that? Like Ellen, the research I saw seemed that there was no real good research on school shootings, if it prevents or helps. There are cases where it has helped, there are cases where it hasn't. A lot of the high-profile shootings have the school resource officers. The school control officer could be different. That. Also, I would be concerned if we have some kind of MOU with
Say that.
an MOU, what that MOU is, and being very careful about the wording there, and what powers we have in regard to this agreement for performance or
MOU. Define MOU.
Agreement.
Okay.
What they call it.
Okay, I was, agreement is what I was, it was the U that was confusing. Okay.
And then, I think I'll raise all the same concerns I have looking at the literature and what the effectiveness is. It seems like if there is effectiveness, it has to do with thefts and violence within the school. So we want to know if there is. And then to Travis's point, if we had one in the past, I'd like to know what happened. What was that setup? What was that like? What were the benefits? Hear from the people who were doing that.
I would agree that those are good things to look at. I would also say, though, studying how something prevents something to happen is always a challenge and a difficult thing, and it skews the research. You know, how do you say what didn't occur? It's a much more difficult study. I also think that we're over-accentuating looking at school shootings and thefts and dramatic effects. When you look at SROs anyways in school districts, the impact they have with kids to prevent things from starting is great. And again, how do you measure that something didn't occur because the SRO officer was there? I don't know how you do that. But if you listen anecdotally to the schools like Morrisville that have them and utilize them, the meetings that they have with students, the impact they have with students to prevent things from ever occurring is very good and powerful. And again, I think, I've said this over and over again here, I think we tend to live in this bubble. I think that it can't happen here. And the more resources we put in place to keep our teachers and our students safe, the better. And it isn't just about school shootings. This is keeping them safe from going down wrong paths, interacting with kids. You know, we have kids that we know now are getting involved in vaping and other things. When you listen to these resource officers at other schools, they're having conversations with these kids about that in a different way, in a different context than a teacher can, and in a different way. And I think it's a valuable resource.
Yeah, to answer your question, the study I saw looked at similar sized school districts that had and didn't have similar population of student makeup. And that it shows kind of mixed results, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Mixed results about what though?
About the reduction in incidents in the schools. And so the school district that did adopted one didn't go down, the problems subside, and another school district that didn't have one, what was the impact?
I'd have to look at the methodology, but again, I think it's always challenging to say, well, this didn't have an impact if something didn't happen. You don't know what was prevented from happening.
You can't compare schools with do and don't.
But as long as you also take into account all the socioeconomic impacts of that, yeah.
That's why there wasn't any
Yeah, and I think, the ones that I saw were comparing the individual schools and over time, was there an impact, did it affect, was there, again, would there have been more, had there, would it have been an escalating problem and instead it stayed a level problem? We have to look at broader data to see what's happening in the rest of the world, but.
So,
Go ahead.
I mean, I think it's definitely worthwhile looking at. I, for one, don't know what the difference between a patrol officer and.
I can't find a definition of a patrol officer other than a crossing guard.
I heard school security officer, school safety officer, school resource officer.
so if we could look into some of this, all of us,
And our window of access is not going to close. So if we plan to regroup at the next meeting with
We're on
more
the list.
information.
As Sheriff Wood said, anytime Hamilton, the regulars run the list, we have not said no.
If you can get first, just how often are the police meeting?
Often than the police, our police, you mean like the village police. I would look at village, Kevin, I've been here 10 months. We've had occasion to ask the village police to come into our schools to investigate some things.
Yes.
In the 10 months, I'm aware of one, I don't know if you're beyond that. The one that happened last spring, Bill, when there was an incident. They
Yes.
asked the police to come in.
And their patrol officers are in the building quite a bit, just stopping by and visiting and talking about things and checking on things. But as far as investigative incidences, one.
One that I was aware of in 10 months.
Like an immediate call, emergency.
And
I've not experienced it since I've been. Go ahead.
Is it reasonable to ask for an assessment from the in-building people about their sense of needs within a month? Is that unreasonable?
I don't think that's unreasonable. I want to be careful.
Or do we want this information first and
Here's what I
then?
want to be careful. I want to be careful of analyzing this based on rational need and emotion. And it's tough, that's a hard thing to do. So if we try to assess building needs, let's say, are we assessing rational data or are we assessing how people feel about their own safety? And I think Paul makes a good point. Are we looking at safety in a broader term? Helping kids or getting kids to get along versus,
I totally agree with
One of the things I would recommend, when we know what the definition of this is, if it's like the SRO, is that we as a board and community get someone from there to come and talk about what their daily experience is. Because I understand what you guys are saying, but that's not my understanding of what an SRO does, nor is it the impact that they have on their school. It's not responding to an emergency, it's not investigating
It's being a
cases.
part of your school.
It's being part of the
Absolutely.
community.
It's a part of the
It's
staff.
very different.
Well, that's
But
why
I don't
I think
think,
that
I
description
can't do it justice. We need a description and maybe have one of those individuals here to explain what they do, what their day-to-day life is like at a school.
Let me give you some experience I've had. The Elmira City School District back in the mid-70s, that's how old I am, you guys, back in the mid-70s, early 80s, literally had a course that was offered in its high schools called Individual Freedom and Law. 10 sections at Elmira Southside, 10 sections at Elmira Free Academy of a course called Individual Freedom and the Law. Those classes were taught by police officers, by Elmira police officers. The kids saw those police officers as teachers, so that was one way to deliver that. Now, how they did it, I don't have the insight, but I taught, next to Bill O'Brien and Jimmy Chapman. I mean, they taught right in the schools, the kids knew as teachers. Can't remember, I know they wore suits to school, I can't remember though if they had a concealed weapon, I just can't remember that. That was in the 70s, so that's one model. That's something that's got to be expensive. So the other one I'm familiar with is the Elmira City School District. Then in the, I think, late 80s and 90s, went away from individual freedom and the law and had an agreement with the Elmira City Police Department that they subsidized a uniformed police officer who was in the school every time the school was open and interacted with the kids in the way that you're describing. My last experience with a police officer at a school, and they were active police, active Elmira police. My last experience was in Waverly in 2016, 17, whatever, before I came here. And they had a contract with the Village Police Department in Waverly, and it was a shared thing between the village and the school district. They hired, we were involved in the interviewing and so on, and they hired somebody who was retired, who was in the school, and became an SRO. Interacted with the kids, worked with the administration, got to know the kids, that kind of thing. So that's what I'm familiar with, that kind of approach, which I think is more around the SRO. So those are my experiences. So I think there's some work to be done, and I would like to give them the opportunity to do it. And I need there is going to be a special meeting sometime in January that's expanded agenda. I'll try to come back by then with some more information, and if not, the February. I hear two different ways to look at this thing. I don't believe there's an attitude in Hamilton that it can't happen here. That one, I think we have seen too much stuff to not think that it can't happen anywhere. I mean, we talk bowling alleys and movie theaters and malls. It's just, it can happen.
So the reason I bring it up is
So
because
how
I
do you
happened
think
to have
people say?
2 of these meetings where people said, we have no credible threats here, and I brought up security issues. So that's why I keep bringing it up, because it was stated at these board meetings that we don't have a credible threat.
I don't share that. It can
I don't
happen
either.
anywhere. That's all I'm saying. I don't believe, I think both statements are accurate. I don't believe we've had any credible threats, but I also believe it can happen anywhere, including Hamilton, New York. So I just want to, this guy, as long as I'm around, believes that it can. And I absolutely believe that the safety of our children and our staff and each other is paramount. I just do. I have feelings. You want to hear a couple of those? One of my feelings is if there's some money available, do it. But I have a feeling when money goes away, many schools don't do it.
which I think is why we had one before and don't
And then the
now.
money went away. And I also believe that there are districts around us who had no one in the schools until the 19 or 18,000 became available, and then quickly said yes. So I think money does play a part. Is it a lot of money? But it's money. So I'm going to say that out loud too, to everybody who's listening. But I do have some work to do, and I do need to come back. I'm not sure I'm going to come back with a recommendation, but I'm going to come back with some additional information. Okay, that's what you're asking for, right? Good?
Which also, in the meantime, I think, we've talked about other issues in the school and about student safety that are still a concern. I wouldn't want this to be a distraction. Pick up, drop off, we talked about the school entry. There are a lot of issues.
I have other issues too, and we had a capital project meeting this morning, and I didn't get an oar in the water on some things we might be able to do, if we can, as part of it, and I'd like to get an oar in the water on that sooner rather than later. I missed it today. We did so much today with architects, but a couple of things like the second, we redo the entryway, are there ways to put barriers around the playground? I mean, there are different other pieces, but we gotta move on. Thank you for the nice open discussion.
Thank you.
I got one.
That brings us back to you. For more
Okay.
handouts, we've got capital project voting discussion.
Got another one. Oops, wait, I gotta give you the right, that's the wrong one. I give you the right one. I feel like that teacher that, you always split everything in half, it goes twice as fast, and you go to the middle to get the extra. I wanted to give you a report on some history with our capital project voting. I had a little bit of concerns that we had some low turnout, and low turnout for a $15.3 million project, there might have been some, why do we have low turnout? Well, let me tell you what was under our control, what we did, and the result we got. That's what's going on. We had a capital construction vote in 1997, and we did that in May. And 533 people came out and voted, and 72% approved. We had no record of how we communicated that vote. We had no record of how we communicated, right? Am I right? Oh, no, yeah, we didn't go, let me put it this way. If there was a record, we didn't go down in the basement to look for it. We have other fish to fry. In 2006, we voted again in May. Now, when you vote in May, you have a budget vote, you have a board vote, we understand. 944 people voted, 67% approved, whatever that project was at the time. The thing was explained to the public, if you will, or at least publicly communicated at board meetings. There was such a thing called a communication committee. There was a brochure developed that was mailed to all residents. There was one public information meeting, which was an evening, I believe, one. We had some budget coffees, because it was around budget time, so part of the budget coffees, we talked about the capital project, and we did the legal notices in our official newspaper, which is MYI. Mid-York. This time, we voted in December. And the vote in December, we had a turnout of 141 voters. The project passed with an 81% yes. We talked about it at public board meetings. I think we went back, we started to talk about this in June, or maybe even before June. We tried to keep it in the public. We did develop a brochure, or a newsletter anyway. We developed a newsletter. We mailed a newsletter to residents. We had 4 public information sessions, and we put the legal notice in the paper. I think a big part of this is having a December vote versus an April. And the bottom kind of explains why we went to vote in December. Basically, I'll cut through it. If we'd have waited to May to vote, we wouldn't be looking at taking care of the roof or the heating plant until July of 21. So we'd have been another year out. So it was really, it felt urgent to do a vote in December so we could start on the buildings in July of 20. So that's why I did December. So that's information.
I thought that the district also did a robocall to at least all.
I think we did. You're right.
To parents.
Yes, the parents. It wouldn't be the whole community, but it would be the parents, yes.
And the newsletter went to all
All
residents.
residents.
Not,
I think some may not have seen that there was a vote, some may not have gotten the information. And I'm sorry for that. I'm open to feedback, and I'm sure the board is to, I don't expect another capital project for a little bit anyway, but as to how we might improve getting the word out. But I wanted to at least share what we did. I still think the big difference was December. Okay, so that's the information on that. Let me put this aside.
Thank you.
Still handing things out. What's next?
Next up is strategic plan mid-year
Ooh.
report.
We have another handout. Four administrators have been working very, very diligently with whatever means available to them to begin to implement parts of the strategic plan. Those four administrators are here, and that would be Kevin, Bill, Mary, and Chris. And I don't know how much talking you want us to do, but if you'll take a look at this, you can see, and we met with Mark Arquette and Jess Boyer to get some additional information, and this is what we think we have put into place for implementation. Okay, everyone have a copy if it's available to you? Okay, without reading to you, Chris is the first one up. If you turn the page in, this is what the technology team has been doing. And Chris, if you want to just quickly, or if you want to read it and ask Chris questions, whatever I'm sure we talked to the board, whatever your pleasure is.
I have one question.
Sure.
The last bullet point, you said you recruited participants for the technology committee.
Yeah,
How did you do that, and did you contact the people that were on the previous committees?
I did. I just did a blanket call for participation. So that's how I recruited people.
A call to,
To everyone in the building.
in the building?
Yeah.
So it's an in-building committee?
Yep.
Okay. That's helpful, thank you.
Yep.
Let me just piggyback a little bit on that, Michelle. When we were in the planning phase, we had quite a bit of participation from different parts of the community. That was dissipating. I came and it went down, so I don't know if I did that. But the participation after the plan was in place, I mean, well, these guys worked really hard for like a year and a half, right? I think people just said, oh, I did my part. So we reached out to the people that were still seemingly active and asked if they wanted to continue for implementation. And we discovered, and I'm looking at Chris because I know he had one person left. Maybe it was last May or June, and the person said, no, I think administratively, if you want to go forward with staff, do it. So at that point, Chris, what kind of technology committee did you have, let's say?
Well, the technology committee is a little bit different than the implementation.
Right, I meant the committee that was in the school.
Yeah.
What kind of participation do you have at that time?
I think we have probably 12 members.
Now,
Yeah.
but it was faded then, am I right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so we revived it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really what.
And we've talked a lot about, we've been to those meetings, about revamping what the technology team's purpose and goals are. We spend all of our time talking about instruction and integration. Very little time talking about the nuts and bolts of things and inventory tags and that sort of thing. They're helping me a lot evaluate new software. We've been looking at a lot of things that we think can help students. So I think that there's positive energy going in the technology committee.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So will that ever have anybody from outside the building?
I think that's worth looking at, particularly if the board thinks that it's valuable. When it comes to making purchasing decisions about what sorts of software are best for instructional purposes, I mean, I'd like to have a conversation with the board about who the best stakeholders are for those sorts of discussions.
What's happening is we're seeing the community happy. We just want to get things rolling.
Certainly, I'm not opposed
But
to
that
it.
is, yeah.
I mean, there's
But I would
so
mean to
many
have-
people have so much technology
Sure.
training in the community, but also students. It would be great to see students have some input.
Yeah, I think students would be valuable. I want to, as much as possible, make sure that I steer the technology committee away from my printer isn't working
Right.
or, those sorts of things. It has to be curricular, it has to be instructional, and it has to be really forward-looking. So, though, I want those people to be on the technology committee, for sure.
I like that focus.
So we have some bullets and some more work to do. Dynamic academic culture, Kevin had led that planning group and is now working with his own staff internally to implement the parts of the plan that were designed before June. RTI, the benchmark assessments, I believe the elementary teachers spent September, or at least early here, benchmarking kids' reading abilities, so we had an idea where the kids were starting, and Gordon Gillingham and Wilson Foundation's workshops have been completed. And we are now looking at engaging consultants for project-based learning. And the counseling plan, I think, is done.
A lot of the things that we did were started literally as soon as some of the feedback came back from the surveys that went out at the beginning of the strategic planning. So a couple of years ago, we recognized, oh wow, we need to do this. This came out in this strategic planning before it even made it to a strategic intent or anything like that. So we've been working on a lot of these things for a couple of years. So when we finally came on what are most important, many of those things were done, which was good.
Any questions?
So who's on your team?
There's, I could look up the members, but
Broad strokes is
maybe 7 teachers, mostly.
all across pre-K.
Originally, it was, when we started off, we had parents.
That was the planning.
It was the planning team.
Right.
Currently, we just have teachers.
And
And
pre-K
myself.
through 12, all the way through on your team, or is yours more
Probably more elementary, but I mean, what we did when we identified it, when we identified what was most strategic and most important to our goals to tackle, we sent teams off to go, like to the high school RTI team. Someone went to the elementary RTI team, somebody went to the high school this and the elementary that. And then that feedback was brought back to the team. And then we were able to put pieces into place to help meet these goals. The counseling plan is the counselors are elementary, middle school, high school. Good process.
I just want to say, my understanding from the strategic plan was that we were going to get this broad-based development of the strategic plan with insight from a lot of different constituent groups, whatever, who are then going to set the direction of what we're asking our staff to then do.
Correct.
So I would actually expect the implementation teams to be staff. I think we may want to have that broad base come back again to evaluate that at some point. But I guess I don't find that surprising. I think it's like the strategic plan informed from a broad base of people what we're going to do, and then we're telling the staff this is what we want. The implementation team would be then doing it, is my understanding.
Yes, that was sarcastic.
Trying to use the microphone. Family and community engagement, I believe, is Mary Walker, who stepped in after this thing was started. I don't know who did all the heavy lifting, but there is an active rejuvenated PTO, and I'll give Carrie and Jen, and credit, and others. They've done a great job to rejuvenate the PTO, which is one of those goals. We did provide 15 days of counseling services last summer. Apparently the summers before there weren't. That's probably part of my transition and working with the new superintendent as to what should that look like next summer. I've heard some feedback in this room around availability for counseling services and college and career readiness in the summer. So we're part of the transition, we'll see how that goes. Our classroom management systems are being evaluated. There are some potential alternatives to Schoology out there. I'm looking at Mary Ann, Chris, because, yeah, I'm very disappointed at Chris. And then the faculty, well, let's hold on that. As Chris said, you know, we got to look forward, right? So, and that's what's happening. We're kind of testing and evaluating, and you'll see this on, I think, another sheet, testing and evaluating what might be. But in the meantime, we're trying to make Schoology, you know, use the best practices, because that's what we have. And I'm looking around, because I know Mark Arquette talked about that earlier too. I think we're trying to make things the best we can with what we have instead of looking forward. So we are on that, and yeah, I don't have any more on that. Mary, Chris. Last one, Bill, is heading up the faculty and staff, and we're doing everything we can to try to work with the faculty, work with the staff, to collaborate to make things happen. And we had the coordinator handbook. Ellen, you asked about that earlier in the meeting. That is completed, and the positions have been restored. 5 of them were tonight. We have 1 more out there. Schoology and School 2, we've been delivering professional development and getting to full potentials. And we found that out when we looked at the plan. There was crossover between the groups, so you're seeing it. The mentor-mentee, we've given release time for that collaboration. That's been delivered. The teacher handbook is still being developed. That's not. Exit interview process has been provided to HTA, and one of the things, again, as either part of transition or depending on how long I'm here, we're looking at clearly is staff recruitment and retention. I'm starting to analyze some data that I found, and I'd like to share it with the board at the next meeting. I'm not ready tonight to do that. But exit interview, challenge with exit interview is our to be told real reasons people lose. That's always a challenge. We're working on it. We have a database apparently that includes the history of professional development, and that is done. So we're able to track professional development. And we did the hiring protocols that we did that, what's that, a number of months ago, right? Maybe May, April. So I look at it, you know, this is terrible because I'm going to use big technical words now. Just kind of knock things out, you know. Keep at it, get the right people working together. If the claim says we ought to be doing this, then we ought to be doing it. So I think that's trying to sum it up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would just like to publicly thank Mark Arquette for his help and assistance. He's been a tremendous support in-house. With Dan Raines' departure, Mark has stepped up and taken a lead role with this. So thank you, Mark. I know you're here.
Thank you. We do miss Dan Raines. He was a really, really good leader. This process kept me straight.
And I would just like to say, I mean, I think, you know, we talked, I mean, Travis brought up the international student program. Now that just kind of faded into the night one day. I don't even really know why. But it's great to see in this case that, you know, the whole community comes together, says these are areas we want to look at, that you guys have really gotten results already, and we're pushing those things through. So, great job. I think it's very positive.
Yes, no, that's so we don't forget.
Another quick 7 point, oh, was that 7.1?
Yes, that was 7.1.
Okay. My turn?
Are you ready at 7.2?
I'd
Your
like
turn
to,
again.
I'd like to get there. Gosh, it's really controlling this. I have one more handout, but I'd like to make a couple of comments first, if I may. We have been in contact with somebody that we thought might help us to figure out where we are with smart bonds. Is that what it's called, Chris? Smart bonds. And we have been pushing to see when the heck are we going to get our smart bonds. Now, we've been told all along that no matter how hard you push, it's 18 months since you initially submitted, but we've been trying to push. Every piece of data says it's going to be 18 months from when we first submitted, which I believe was November of 17. So we asked let me find the date on this. We asked December 20th, where are we at? And we were told 4 to 6 months. So if you put 4 to 6 months, you're right there at the April 18th. So we've done our best with smart bonds. Chris has a plan. He's been working with the principals. We're ready to do what we said we were going to do, but we believe this is wanted to get back to the board on that. I know when I first came, there were questions about it. Next,
Reading the tea leaves, my best guess is it may be March.
that'd be good.
Maybe.
That'd be 17 and a half months.
Maybe March.
I'm going to hold you to that, Chris.
So,
Say May, so we're surprised when it comes in.
Yeah, really, right?
I got some bad information. I met with a vendor from Dell. You know, the vendors are always trying to like sell you stuff. And I said, well, you know, all of our plans are on hold until we get this smart box. He sends me an email. He's like, hey, I know this guy. You know this guy in the committee.
I got a guy.
Don't shoot me if it
I
doesn't
got a
happen.
guy.
You guys are on the December 3rd agenda. So I'm like, sweet. And then I look at the minutes of the December 3rd, and we're not on there. Camden was on there, but we were not on.
We were on the agenda, it said, the agenda item said vote on Hamilton and April.
That's right. Yeah, so, now Camden submitted theirs about 3 months ahead of us. So that puts us in March or April. So,
I have one more, and I'm going to ask Bill to kind of help me with this one, maybe fill in a couple of blanks. We received a letter of recognition, commendation, I don't know what else to call it, from Julie Thompson, who's the junior senior high school principal in Oriskany.
Yes.
And go ahead, Bill. What she said about our students, our girls, JV and varsity basketball.
Our JV and girls varsity basketball team played at Oriskany, and we have a pretty competitive relationship with Oriskany, but on a very professional level. And their coach is a kindergarten teacher who, in her class, has a little boy whose dad has been a booster, a huge supporter in the Oriskany community, diagnosed with terminal cancer, and he's in his last time of life. And they wanted to do this fundraiser. So we agreed to participate, but Gary Weeks, who was our girls varsity basketball coach, out of his own pocket bought t-shirts for every one of our girls. Our girls wore them throughout warm-ups. They sat through the presentations. They took pictures after, and Julie Thompson, who was the high school principal, wrote a very nice letter to myself and to Coach Weeks, just explaining, you know, and recognizing what that meant for that family and how very happy and moved they were by our sportsmanship and our willingness to participate and support this family. So it was really powerful and just a testament to our sportsmanship and our character.
We've already recognized Gary and been Gary up and down, and I promised them we would do a public here.
Yeah.
I mean, the lady, Julie Thompson writes, tonight was much more than the basketball. Commended our kids. Very nice. Yeah, I wanted to. And Bill wrote a very, very nice, thank you response to Julie Thompson. I have one more handout. Topic very near and dear to my heart, and one that keeps cropping up for a superintendent who wasn't supposed to be here in the winter. School delays in closing. I want to share information about decision making. I have not shared this with the board. You know, I started March 12th, and I'm thinking, okay, September 1st, October 1st, maybe November 1st, you know, no winter. And I know I'm getting used to this now. Mamma mia, 4:30 comes early. All right, you can see what's in writing. Let me give you a broad overview. The decision-making has to be balanced between continuing the day normally as possible, holding school, holding afternoon events, having an instructional day, an extracurricular afternoon, evening activities. That's against student and staff safety. We have people that I know travel from Syracuse, Utica, and so on. So on my mind, in my mind, I'm constantly trying to balance those two things. Regular day, school safety. So what happens? I wanted to share the process. On Tuesday, it started at 4:36. Today was about 10:05. we get information first, and we get information from the road staff, and I forget the names, Jason?
Jason Florence.
And there's another one too in the area, that our transportation supervisor, who's up even earlier than that, is interacting with to try to get road conditions and what's going on. I then keep an eye on the weather reports, although reading something that might happen on a computer, you're better off looking out the window, really. So you gotta watch the weather reports. We also have a 10-person superintendent group text, and that's interesting, because somebody's usually looking for somebody to do something. So that part you take with a deep breath and say, what's good for our district? That's the key. And then I keep an eye on other districts. I mean, and all of a sudden, when you got 15, 20, 30, 40 districts delayed 2 hours, and you're the only one open, and everyone around you delayed it. So you can be influenced, okay? So then decision-making has to become, if we're going to delay, we have to, or close, we have to decide at the latest 6:15. On Tuesday, we decided before that to delay. Today, we decided later because stuff happened later today. I thought we were going to be open today, and then stuff happened. I got reports that it was getting worse. Usually when, you know. And then we try to make a decision by 8 o'clock. Now, I know there's an impact. The closer you get to 6:15, the harder it is. You got staff traveling. Do I come to work? Do I do this? You got to be careful. Buses are ready to go, so we have to be very careful. On Tuesday, we decided very early, it was clear, there was ice. There was ice all over everybody's travel route. We decided very early to delay. Generally, when you have ice, the sun comes up, the temperature goes up, things melt. Things were not melting by the time our 8:15 bus was going to go out. And you just sit there and you know by 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock, everybody's going to be wondering. It's just, we were not ready to transport kids at 8:15. We just were not. If we could have done a 3.5-hour delay or a 3-hour delay, we would have been ready. Today, all the information I had is that things were going to get better. And I think they did as the day went on. I mean, we got the kids that safe enough. And then, of course, the afternoon activities, and you start seeing Stockbridge Valley closes, Madison, Mercer Eaton closes, Madison closes. We were okay. You know, we worked with Sherburne Earlville. I talked to the superintendent. We were okay going that way for a game, and we were okay with the rest of our children here. So I wanted to give you that background. And then, of course, the communication piece, when we know, that's when the roll calls go out at the meeting. So I wanted to share with the board, it's a process that's fun. And do we make mistakes? Absolutely. One day I closed, the sun stayed out all day. Oh my goodness. Different district, not here. One day we went in, oh my goodness, 4 or 5 inches burst within an hour, and the buses were rolling. I was so scared. So we do make mistakes.
I fully realize that this is a no-win situation, but I would urge, if possible, that the target be 6 rather than 6:15, because I think there's a lot of staff.
Yeah, maybe on the road. Yeah. Today was later than I liked, but at 5:45, we were going to go to school. At 5:45 this morning, I had talked to the transportation supervisor for the 5th and last time, I thought. And I said, I think, she kept saying, we're okay, we're okay. They remember telling me in the county we're all right. For Hamilton, I don't know. And I got to tell you guys, I travel, that Canastota, Morrisville, Eaton, Manlius, Casanova, Chittenango, can be different from us. And we can be different from Oneida, Rome. It's really interesting depending on where the bands go. So I've learned that. The southern tier where I used to live, we didn't have lake effects coming. So you either had a storm off the coast that just shut everything down. You didn't have Harry, thank you for that suggestion. That is a good suggestion to do that earlier. Anybody else have a comment? Because I am open.
No, so, and the transportation supervisor is communicating with, like, the town supervisors and the people who are responsible for clearing the roads and those sorts of things.
Yeah, the road staff.
Yeah.
And that's the road staff.
And Tuesday, we were hearing that plows were sliding off the road. And when
Yeah.
I hear that, it's, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Plows and buses, they don't mix. Today, we were hearing that they weren't too bad. But again, you get pressure, Morrisville Eaton closed, then you start going, got Casanova closed, and you start thinking, why drove that way? When I came in this morning, I came on Route 20, oh, mamma mia, that way. But as I came over that last hill on 20 that goes to 46, the roads were wet. But boy, before that it is. And then I missed a turn in Casanova, and I wound up down on Route 80. Oh my goodness, I was in God's country. I knew where I was. Matt accused me of taking a couple of runs at Toggenburg. It's a serious subject. I mean, I know I'm chuckling. I don't look at it as no win. You make a decision, and I got to tell you, the thing that breaks the tie is student safety. If I have any sense that kids are not going to be safe, we don't come to school. I'd rather miss a day of school than the alternative. Stories are horrible.
Thank you.
Okay, so am I done?
Yeah, we're done with you for now.
I'm done.
We have steering committee
Thank you.
updates. The secondary steering committee meets next week, so there's no update for that. The elementary steering committee met today. We talked about a few things before I left. I'm here. We are working on a survey to work on student discipline.
Really, yeah, just really getting feedback from teachers about what's going on in the room with discipline. And, we've seen an uptick in the last 3 years of behaviors. And, what's working, what's not working, what are you noticing, what are the times that, what can you use some PD in? We got it down to maybe 7 or 8 questions, I think. So the survey's pretty much ready to go.
The teachers were talked to.
We talked to
about
teachers
it.
today, faculty meeting about it,
Faculty
so they have a
They have an
sense
idea
of
coming,
why it's coming.
why we're doing it.
Yeah.
Hoping to help everybody.
Yeah.
A couple other things, but.
Leave man.
The other thing was, we're looking at ways we can help increase participation rate for ELA and math tests, just some new things that are out this year with state ed that's holding us accountable to a participation rate. So we're looking at, why are students opting out, and kind of demystifying all that there's out there on ELA and math testing 3A. And then we're talking about putting together a common sense kind of pamphlet so parents can make well-informed decisions about opting out or not.
They're opting in.
Yeah,
We were at the ESSA meeting
Yeah.
on Monday, and they mentioned districts that had an opt-in
That's
campaign.
correct.
Yeah.
And I thought we needed to get the names of those districts and figure out what they were doing,
Yes.
so.
I'm looking for opt-in, strive for 95. Well, we did, we talked to PTO last night, we talked to elementary faculty today, we talked to the secondary faculty on Monday, making people aware that our district, we went up on the list, it's because of participation, not scoring.
PTO update, I don't see anybody.
I'll
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, the officers aren't here. The PTO, I said it last time, I'll say it again, people should go to the PTO. The level of energy in the PTO is really, really wonderful to see. Each meeting has a focus and a theme. At yesterday's meeting, our counseling staff, Victoria Dow and Denise Gabaz, did a day in the life of what it means to be a counselor at our school. They explained the different focus at the elementary and the middle and high school levels. It was very impressive, very professional, and I know that the parents at the PTO meeting very much appreciated it. In terms of our communication with our community, the superintendent, both principals, all gave reports. I think that this is a very, very healthy policy, so the PTO has a highly structured committee system. They are doing things to support the teachers. They are doing things to fundraise, to promote literacy, the garden, wellness, a whole range of things to promote morale and good spirit within the district and to promote enrichment for our student body. It was a very refreshing meeting to attend.
Thank you. Emerald Foundation.
Yeah, I guess. Everybody knows that the Emerald Foundation does wonderful things for us. This last, very briefly, this last meeting, there was not a whole lot of business conducted because it was the holiday meeting, and a good number of the officers were away on vacation. But we all know, because it's already been reported, that the Emerald Foundation generously wrote the check to support our art teachers going to an art conference, so that was the main order of business.
Budget update?
Mr. Matt?
Thank you.
This will be fairly brief, not a whole lot to report. We've had all of our preliminary budget discussions with all of our department heads, both instructional and non-instructional. So generally speaking, we get an idea just to talk about staffing, programming, student placements, and we talk about some wish list items and things that we'd like to see. In general, we strive to at the very least keep things intact. We'll talk about, have our initial discussions looking forward. The next couple weeks are pretty key in terms of the budget development process in a general sense. Again, our health insurance premium increase this year looks to be substantial as far as the budgetary impact. We'll know that for sure in the next couple weeks. Also, the governor's budget run will be released, we expect in the next couple of weeks, which will give us our first indication of what our state aid increase package will look like. State aid package will look like, hopefully with an increase. March 1st, our tax cap calculation is due to the state. I've started to sort of crunch the numbers on that. There's little bits and pieces of information that are provided to us by the state that go into that calculation. It looks like 2% is going to be the basis. As you may or may not remember, it's the lesser of 2% of the statewide CPI. So it looks to be 2% as a basis, and we have had some tax-based growth. So don't quote me on this, but I anticipate our allowable levy increase to be between 2 and 3%, probably around 2.5%. So the February board meeting, I should have much more information in terms of an actual budget draft and start sort of looking at revenues and expenses and where we stand. In the meantime, if you reference the budget calendar, the next event is the February board meeting, and then beyond that, gets us to the March 1st deadline for the tax cap. If there's anything along the way that you folks would like to see added, whether it's in the month of March, we always do a handful of budget coffees, board workshops, public meetings. Certainly welcome any feedback. I know we talk about voting turnout, civic engagement. We'd like to see that, and we'd like to do whatever we can to increase that. Lastly, and this is just a plug for something that I feel very strongly about, and I think it impacts so much of what we do here. And it's a community event that's coming up. I have my Rotary hat, my PCB involvement as a PCB board member. There's a forum that's coming up next Tuesday, I'm sorry, 2 Tuesdays, the 22nd at 6 o'clock at the Colgate Inn. It's going to be a panel discussion of a recent study that was done regarding housing in Hamilton. When we talk about things that directly impact the school, enrollment, voter turnout, retaining staff, retaining young families in Hamilton, I feel very strongly that it's a major factor impacting all of those things. I believe it's going to be President Casey from Colgate, the mayor, Ruth Ann Lovelace, and Evangelist from the town of Hamilton, as well as Jennifer brought a letter from the PCD discussing housing in Hamilton, both in the sense of inventory and availability, and also changes in behavior the trends in housing needs. So I know district will be represented there. I'm actually going to give a brief 1 to 2 minute data on how housing has impacted us in terms of retaining people in our home. So if you can be there, that's for the public as well. So.
Thank you.
That takes us to the administrator reports.
I think it was around the strategic plan. Looking, I think we're.
Yeah, if I could just share one thing, I put on your tables, Paul had brought it up a couple months ago about Juuls and vaping and e-cigs, and the National Tobacco 2018 National Youth Tobacco Survey just came out. There's been a 78% increase amongst high school students on vaping, and a 48% increase amongst middle schoolers. And we're now seeing incidences of it here. So through the work of Melissa Kasulis at the Hamilton Coalition, the PTO, we're going to have a family event for vaping, juuling, and e-cigs. Bridges is going to put on the event. It's February 13th at 6 o'clock. It's originally scheduled for the library. I think we're going to move it to the auditorium to accommodate a larger crowd, hopefully. But I think it's going to be very informative. Bridges is also going to set up a mock bedroom where parents can then ransack the bedroom and look to see where kids hide stuff. And we did this at the back to school bash that it wasn't advertised real well, but some parents went through, and you're amazed at the hiding places that kids have that you don't find. So that's going to be a really neat thing for parents to be able to go and have a hands-on exhibit and ransack some bedrooms to see where kids hide stuff.
As well as stuff that leave in plain sight, but you just don't know what it is.
You don't know what it is, exactly.
It's
It's like the Juul looks like a little zip drive. It's a public awareness. It's here, and we need to raise the awareness and come up with some action steps. So this will be a good first step for us.
Everybody else good?
I just wanted to say also, I don't have a lot of information to share, but I have begun the process of crafting the second half of the Smart Schools bond. Matt and I are having meetings with our counterparts at the RIC to discuss the security aspect in terms of technology. So I need some of those preliminary numbers from them to be able to plug into the application to submit to the state, but I wanted to let you know that it's underway.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to 7.8. The board has been engaged, I'm going to read this, well,
Perfect.
no, that way I don't mess it up.
That's our official statement.
It's our official statement. The board has been engaged in the search process since August, engaging with stakeholders, determining our expectations for the candidate, and interviewing applicants. We received a total of 9 applications, narrowed the pool to 4 viable candidates, and are in the process of interviewing and finalizing our decision. This task has been intense and thoughtful. We anticipating coming to closure with the process within our predicted timeline, which is the end of January. Once closure is met, a special board meeting will be held to appoint the superintendent. This meeting will be posted as all meetings are. So we just wanted to make sure that everybody was up to date on that process. That brings us to 8.0, which is community participation. If you would like to come forward, please do so, and remember the 3-minute timeline.
Hello. Hello. My name is Aaron Solly. I have 2 kids in the elementary school here, and I want to talk about the SRO. I enjoyed hearing the discussion amongst the board. I agree with everything that was said. It could happen here. I'm under no illusions of that. But I don't believe that introducing the law into the school is a good idea for the fear of the school to the prison pipeline. Minor infractions should be handled by the school as opposed to getting the law involved. If a 14-year-old is caught with pot underneath the bleachers, would we rather have that kid be arrested and taken to the police station or have the parents call? You know, if a fight breaks out amongst two 18-year-olds, do we want one of the 18-year-olds to be charged as an adult? There's possibility for great things to happen for a police officer in the school. I'm not saying it's not possible. I just think that a discussion needs to be had about that and whether the pros outweighs the cons. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Anything else? Sorry. That takes us to, I need a motion for adjournment into an executive session. We will discuss the employment history of particular individuals and pending litigation.
And again, there will be no action taken after executive session.
Um,
You're welcome to stay.
I'll move.
All those in favor?
Is that one going to stay somewhere?